everyone. I'm so excited to have one of my really good friends here, Happy Ali. How are you doing today?
I am good. It's early in the morning for me, so I'm just waking up.
You're like, I'm just slowly coming into this world.
Yeah, and I'm looking down at you, so it looks like my eyes are closed because I'm not looking into the camera. So, but I'm not completely asleep. So, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. I'm super excited that you have your new book out. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And the
I'm
book
real.
is called, guys, The Intuition Bible, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom. And I love, love, love the name. What was your creative process to write it?
I want to take credit for it, and I want to take credit for the name, but I can't. I um, did a little meditation the night before about what I need to write as I was in the middle of writing another book. I was having a little bit of writer's block. And I said, use me, bring forth whatever humanity needs at this moment. And then the next morning, I woke up with the book. I thought it was complete. It was 15 chapters, and it was called How to Access Your Inner Wisdom or something like that. And as soon as I start writing it, like every chapter would multiply, and then it ended up being 29 chapters. And right when I was about to submit it to my publishers for, to try to get a deal, the name, the Intuition Bible just popped into my head, and I knew I had to use it. And then my publisher said the name is what made us open the email. So
Yes.
I feel like it was one of those journeys where I literally did what I say for people to do in the book, which is follow your inner wisdom and tap into your inner knowing. And it made everything really effortless. So that was really cool.
I love that. And I love that you trusted it and it got them to open the the email, which is
That
great.
part's hard. That part is really hard because I had such other plans, and everyone said you need an agent to get a publisher, or I had so much invested in the previous book. It was already like 75% done, and it was a good book, and I
I
think
know
it's
the
lost in
feeling.
the ethers. It's lost. I don't know where it is, but it was one of those things where the message was so strong that I knew I had to stop everything and just restart. And I know some people might look at that and say, oh, he doesn't start or finish what he starts, like my mother, because I'll start a new project in the middle of another one. But sometimes that's just the way that it goes, and you just got to go with the flow.
But the thing is with that, sometimes that's the actual stepping stone that needed to come in first in order for this to come in for you to actually be in flow with it. And I think that that sometimes gets lost on people, especially people that are neurodivergent or have ADHD, where they're like, they never, it doesn't look like they're finishing projects, but when they get hyper focused into something and it's finished, it's because all those other things sometimes is the catalyst that is assisted in the completion of it.
My aunt and I were just having a conversation, and I was telling her about how I feel successful in what I'm doing right now. And she said it was such a shame that you had to do so many different things for so many years and learn so many different things and abandon them and then finally figure it out when you're in your 40s. And I said, you know what? No, those were all the tools that I needed right now to be the one man show that I am. I learned how to edit music, film. I learned how to do makeup. I learned how to do so many things that now when it comes to hiring people, a lot of times I don't even need to hire someone because I have all the tools in my toolkit, and that was from my life experience. So it's interesting that you say that because sometimes I do feel like I have a little bit of ADHD going on, but I don't really feel like I have it. I always think of it as a superpower, and I
For
don't put it to
sure.
the name.
For sure,
And
for sure.
another
Yeah,
thing you said, go ahead,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, I was gonna say that it's interesting because if you think, look at just a history of really successful people when they've made it big, they've been in their 50s. Like
That's nice
it,
to know.
yeah, they're in their 50s. And so, like, to me, I think there's this pressure on society where you have to get everything. You need to be super successful in your 30s, and you don't. Like, I think that you follow the energy that presents itself to you. If you're a yes, lean in. If it's a no, back away from it, and spirit's going to lead you exactly where you're meant to be, either to learn or to be in flow. And it's up to you on which one you're going to be tapping into in that exact moment, in that exact chapter. But I think there is no rush, and all of the tools that you learn, you get to take with you no matter where you're at in your life.
Absolutely. And I think that everyone else, well, everyone starts at a different starting point. So, someone like me, for example, who didn't have a lot of structure growing up and needed to gain more structure in my 20s and in my 30s. And I had my family before I had my career. Although I was a successful makeup artist for many years, but I never felt fully satisfied. The only part I felt satisfied with was when I was talking to people, having the one-on-one and feeling like I was helping them on a deeper level. But there was a moment where I realized I don't want to just make people feel good because they look pretty on the outside. It was time for them to feel good on the inside,
Love that.
because I'm working on the inside. And ironically, that's the theme of all my work. How to tap into your inner wisdom, or my first book was The Charisma Within, how to enhance your inner magnetism, because I feel like ultimately all your power is within. And if you don't go within, then you're always going to be searching outside for something that's not tailored to your needs. And all that we need is really what's inside of us. And earlier you mentioned the word stepping stone.
Mhm.
And I feel like my work right now is a stepping stone for humanity to get from where the baseline seems to be to where people want to be telepathic and have all these, supernatural experiences. And there are people like you and many others who channel information and receive downloads all the time. And there's like this gap between where a lot of people feel that they are and a lot of people that they aspire to be. And this book, I think, or my work in general, is the middle ground, like the first baby step that will take you from just not even considering yourself intuitive or a channel or anything to just learning how to change your mindset, and then learning the techniques and slowly getting yourself to where you can identify as something that once upon a time you thought was too weird to identify as.
Hey friend, did you know that we started a new live crystal show? It's called Crystal and Light Codes with Amy, and it's every Thursday. You can check out my website for more information, and you can get beautiful crystals that have been activated and attuned in a very special way all through the Akashic records that are waiting and ready to work with you. They're all high vibrational crystals, and each time you buy a new type of crystal, you will get a light language activation that's included with your purchase as my gift to you. Check out the link in the show notes and show description. The show is every Thursday, unless I'm traveling. Sometimes I have to travel, and then we'll switch the show. All right, my friends, let's jump back into the episode. I think the book is excellent. I love the part where you're talking about dreams, because you and I both are prophetic dreamers, and there's different ways that people dream and how those come about. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, usually the dreams that people always want me to talk about are the two main dreams that really confirmed me as a prophetic dreamer, and with the family and friends and everything.
Mm-hmm.
One was when I was, in my late 20s or probably almost 30, and I was just like a party animal, living my single gay life, having, the usual what people do when they are in the world of rock and roll, although I was more into dancing. Um, I'll leave it to your imagination. And I had a dream that I was told I was going to have a son. And I just thought it was ludicrous because I was gay and it wasn't that easy to have a son and or a child. And then I was shown my best friend who was 9 months pregnant, and her wife, her lesbian wife, obviously they're lesbians. She came around and reached in and grabbed this baby and handed me this baby and said, "This is your son. His name is Cyrus." And I fell in love with that baby right away. And I woke up and I called her up and said, "Hey, this is what's happening. We're having a boy." And I kind of let it go. And then 6 months later, they approached me to have a son. And then we ended up just using the old fashioned or new fashioned turkey based turkey baster style. We had a baby without even trying very hard.
Which is
But
incredible.
I know people try all the time. I'm like, I can make babies like that. And 4 years later, I had another dream, and it was the death of my another best friend and my father. And I remember burying them and telling my best friend, 2 people were going to die. And 2 months later, I had another dream of a car accident where there was a person in the front of the car and there was a person in the back, and they waved goodbye, and I tried to give them hugs, but they're like, we have to go. And that day, my son and my best friend died. So those were kind of like the big ones that
They're
really just
massive.
the massive ones that really changed my understanding of how powerful dreams are and how reality is really energy first before it becomes manifest into reality. So, there are people who try to become pregnant and they can't have a baby. And I always tell them the baby will come when the soul is ready to come. Don't worry
For
about it so much.
sure.
And it's the same thing with death. The soul will leave when it's ready to leave. And it has nothing to do with whether it was a car accident or a illness or whatever you want to attribute the death to. So it's really good to understand the concept that things happen on an energetic level first.
Right.
And so that really helped. And also, there was a lot of communication with my son after he died. He showed up, he guided me through the mourning process, and I also told me I was going to have more kids, which seemed like another impossible task because the person who was having my kids died, and guided me towards the surrogacy thing and somehow brought the 100 grand that I needed together for me to have my twins, Cyrus and Dario. We didn't name the original baby Cyrus because no one liked it. His name was Sky. And and the dreams I think are amazing because you tap into another world. I mean, there's the surface layer, which you're just kind of regurgitating your week and
Yeah,
processing
I
the
call
stuff that you
those
can process.
subconscious dreams where you're working through your subconscious
Eh,
and
So those are the ones, and then there's the ones where you tap into other dimensions, other
yep.
timelines, other
Yeah.
things, and you talk to your dead family, and they guide you, and there's so much different stuff. Dreams, I think, is where we come from. So I think where we go when we sleep is where we're gonna go when we die, and it's like a big playground that anything is possible.
I think I think that sometimes when people hear something like that, it can kind of scare them. And then you hear people that are like, I don't remember my dreams ever. And I go, you're just not you're not available to remember them sometimes. And sometimes you're just not meant to remember him at that moment in time. But I love that he came to you and that you followed through with whatever it is that you were being guided. I call those sometimes timeline hopping, where you're like able to view what's happening on the timeline, and then it comes into fruition. And I think it's really, really fascinating because you and I have talked a lot about dreams and the symbolism and everything like that. I think it's really fascinating how um, you interpret your dreams and how there's a lot of expertise, like natural expertise for you around death and what that looks like. And I think it's really amazing because I think it brings comfort to people when they're processing stuff.
Yes, and it's not just death, it's anything dramatic.
Yes,
So it could be a birth of a child. I mean, I've met all my children before they were born. I've even met my twins as grown-ups, graduating high school. And whenever someone in the family gets pregnant, I get the advance notice and I ask them if they're pregnant, and they usually lie because it's within their uh, window before they tell people. And then I'm like, and I say, I told you. But it's funny because I talk about intuition, and one of the things that I just remembered is that I used to be the gender uh, person who people
the
who come to me
predictor.
predictor, and I've only had it wrong once in my entire life. I would be like, you're having a boy, you're having a girl. So I think a lot of stuff, including whether you remember your dreams or whether you tap into your intuition, has a lot to do with what your subconscious believes is important for you.
Right,
Because we
right.
get a lot of data. We get about 11 million bits of data coming at us through us at each moment, but we can only process about 170, 167.
Mm-hmm.
So the subconscious has to whittle it down to whatever is relevant for you and whatever is not going to rock your boat, shake your equilibrium, or throw you off your throw your balance off. So it's really important to know if you don't believe that dreams or intuition or downloads are relevant or important in your life, then you're not going to remember them because your subconscious will delete them because it will clear up your bandwidth for stuff that's more important for you. So I think that's what, like, one of my sons never dreamt, and the other ones did. And when he realized how much we love talking about our dreams and really just exchanging notes, he made it something that he cared about, and now he remembers his dreams. So it was not until he had that mental shift that made it possible for him to remember it. And then in the morning he wakes
Yeah.
up. So it's just a matter of whether we think something is relevant, important, and useful.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's funny because I always go like, hey, to my to my daughter, like, hey, what'd you dream about last night? And a lot of times it's about dinosaurs.
Same.
Lots of dinosaurs. So, but I think like talking to kids early on, because I remember my dreams since I was two. And so to me, dreams have always been like a big part of my reality and how I would work through things and even trauma as a kid.
Same, same. I remember um we were in a car with my mom, dad, and sister, and it would always fall off a cliff. And it was just like all the time. And then they got their divorce a little bit after that. So this is the first time I actually remembered to mention that. I didn't even put it together. So I think even back then, my dreams and subconscious were warning me about the dissolution of my family unit. So that's
Yeah.
very interesting. But yeah, dreams. I can talk about dreams all day long because they're such a huge part of my life. And last night I got to hang out with my dead son again. This has been 11 years since the accident, April of 2014. And I spent the whole night with him, but I kept holding him. I'm like, please don't let this be a dream, please. And I wouldn't wake up from it. And then in the morning I woke up and I was like, oh shoot. I called my other sons. I'm
Aw.
like, I need hugs now. So they came over and
Aw.
gave me hugs. But obviously visiting me still after
Yeah, and I
11
think
years.
he's visiting you right now just because the anniversary is coming up
Mhm.
too, just to bring you comfort and ease. And that's the nice thing about our ancestors from the other side. Like they're able to see things that even when we can't articulate what we need, they're able to see things in such a like beautiful way. Like I walked into my house the other day and I'm like, I can smell my grandpa in my house because my grandma's going through some stuff right now, and like I could smell him and like, okay, like thanks for coming. Like I know that I need to go check on her and things like that. So it's just like the ancestor stuff is so amazing to me, and I love that you held as long onto the dream as you possibly could.
Yeah, it was sad when he left. But
So
I
sorry.
it's you know, I think accessing your inner worlds is it's so important and so powerful when it comes to having the best version of your life because sometimes life doesn't seem to make sense from the outside. And the news and the information and everything that's coming at us is so just, you know, chaotic.
Yeah.
And when you learn to tap in and you go within, and I know this sounds easy for you because you do this, but a lot of people, we get so caught up in the outside noise that we don't realize that there's an inner voice that's always trying to improve our lives. And our brains go in beta mode, which is really fast because when you see all the news and go through social media, the brain waves are so quick that we cannot process the slow waves of information that come from within. And the only way to do that is either close your eyes or sit down or be quiet or shut up. And then our brain waves slow down, and then we can tap into our inner voice. And then our inner voice comes from everything you talked about, your ancestors, your higher self, your guides, your God source, your angelic realms, for you, the Akashic records. There's so much stuff that's trying to come through. And then we're so busy trying to figure out what the noise is on the outside that we don't bother quieting our minds. And then, so I think that's really important. And the cool thing about the information that comes through us is that it does have an agenda, just like our friends and family and politicians do. But its agenda is for your betterment and for you to have a better life. So it's kind of nice to have that other voice be amplified. You know,
Absolutely. How do you like I'm here to ask you like what's your slowing down process? What's your meditation process?
well, the first thing is if you have to, well, the first thing you have to do is close your eyes because the visual field is very intoxicating and out of all our senses. So as soon as you close your eyes, it's almost like you're halfway there. You're more than halfway there because the most distracting sense is gone. And then you
Hmm.
want to be in a quieter place. You want to be in a comfortable place. You want it to be, you want to create a situation where your five senses are being used as little as possible. And when I do that is when I start receiving. And I ask a question before I shut down because usually if you want to just chill, you can chill and just have a quiet meditative experience and whatever comes comes. But usually I have a question like what's happening? What am I doing here? Should I be worried about this or should I make a left or a right? Tell me something. I want to know. So first I ask the question, then I kind of mute the senses and then I wait to see what comes up. And sometimes it feels like you're just making stuff up,
Hmm.
but
It's so
even
so normal and common.
and especially if you're claircognizant, which is what I am, which is someone who just gets downloads. Um,
Me
but
too.
but the thing is, even if it's not, your ancestors talking, it's from a very much broader perspective to where it
Right.
can see the big picture. And that's when you start. And then I just lately have just been putting my hands on my keyboard and letting it type away. And that's something that I've been doing for a while, but I'm doing it on a regular basis now. And then I noticed in the beginning, it just sounds like me. And then all of a sudden, this like array of information comes out that isn't really necessarily what I was even thinking
Yeah,
about.
your channel is opening up and it's shifting and I love that.
That's my favorite right now. And that's what only because I'm really good at doing that at the moment. I had an aunt that died on the 24th and today, so about a week ago.
So sorry.
Thank you. I had the warning 3 weeks in advance in the dreams. Excuse me. And then I was talking to her daughter for an hour and then we hung up and then I felt her energy in my body. I couldn't hear her. I felt her. Then I put my hand on the keyboard and then I heard her, but it was in a different language because I'm from Iran and it was in Persian. And I said, listen, I can't type in Farsi, so you better switch. So then it switched to English, but in my own voice, like I could hear my own voice. And then I just started typing away. And this is new to me. I haven't really been
I'm so
able to.
excited for you, Happy, because I think like this is a great way to channel. It's a great way to tap in. And I know you've been wanting to do it for a while and just I'm so happy you're doing it and you're
Thank
seeing the
you.
results with it because it just takes time and practice. It's as simple as it is. It takes time and practice, and the more you practice, the more it flows because you already channel like you're channeling in your sleep, you can channel outside of the dream realms as well, which I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it's the trust part. It's always the trust part that I think is a huge factor because in hindsight, I've always received information, but sometimes you just don't trust it or I'm afraid to tell someone. I remember it was a while ago and someone's dog died and I clearly felt the dog and I heard the message the dog was trying to tell me, but it took me maybe 24 hours to be able to get the courage to call them and tell them what their dog told me. And I was like, I'm channeling a dog. Which to me, it was like, okay, what the heck's going on? This is so weird. And then now I'm going to be perceived even more weird than I already am perceived. And then, but I had to trust it. So I had to know that I had to send that
Yeah.
message.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think, I think that when it comes to our evolution and spirit and working together, we get these opportunities that present themselves to us. For example, the dog coming to you, and then you can sit on that information or you not. And if you don't use the information, you choose to sit on it, you're just going to keep getting the same results. Where when you actually put it into motion because you're being guided to do something and you listen to that guidance, and it's up to us, we have free will. But when you do, guess what happens? More opens up, more channeling opens up. And sometimes it's not in, it doesn't even matter if the person perceives the information as good, bad, or indifferent. Sometimes just the very act is the very thing that your higher self and your team wants you to go through and process and do. And I think it's fabulous.
I ended up sending the message that my aunt sent me to my cousin, and
Hmm.
it took me a minute. This is a few days ago, like about a week ago. And at first, she just said, "Thank you, I appreciate it." And I also sent it to my sister, who always sees ghosts, and she has the most supernatural skills in our family, but she doesn't nurture them because she's afraid of them a little bit.
That's a
Uh,
hard one when you're seeing those,
she sees
and
a lot of stuff. Uh,
yeah,
and
that one's a little harder, I think.
and then what happened was was like, okay, I sent it out. And then 4 hours later, I get a long message from my cousin. She's like, I read this over and over and over, and it makes so much sense. And I really needed to hear this. And I didn't realize it at first glance. And then the next day, she sends me an even longer voice message saying, hey, can I share this with family? Because I think they would appreciate it. So it was one of those
Yeah.
things. And then the next day, I had a client who was going through something, and I was telling her about what happened. And she's like, do you mind reading it to me? So I read it to her, and then she started crying. She said, that was for me. I said, well, I don't know if that was for you. She's like, no, that was for me. And I figured that spirit will hit many birds with one stone. So,
Yes.
and then I told my best friend, and she's like, that sounds like my mom. She's telling me something. And I was like, okay, this is
Oh.
so good. And I almost sat on that information, and because I'm very vulnerable, as you read in my book. I always tell people my shortcomings. I teach people what I know and how far I've come, and then I tell them this is where I have room for growth, and this is what I have success, and this is what I'm working on. So I don't ever come across as this all-knowing person who is just teaching you this is the way to be. I
Which I
just
think
say,
is so refreshing because none of us are perfect. We're all working through stuff and we're all trying our best to get to the next level and understanding and empathy and all of it. And I think that's amazing.
thank you. And I think there are a lot of false prophets out there, and a lot of people who just say, oh, you can just do this. It's so easy. But I show my struggles. Even my last book, chapter 2, is Make Peace with Your Body. And I said, disclaimer, I'm working on this one still. This is what the download was, what I was supposed to do, because did receive the information. Doesn't necessarily mean I follow it. And just like your intuition, once you master your intuition and you know exactly what is being told to you by the divine source within you, doesn't mean you're going to listen. Sometimes our human self says, hey, listen, I know that that person is not good for me, but that person's really cute. So I'm
Yes.
going to go that route, and I will suffer the consequences, and you will do it, because just because a wise friend gives you advice doesn't mean you're going to follow it. Because some people say, what if I hear something that I don't want to do? I said, well, don't do it.
Don't do it. But then there's this part. They get so excited because they heard something they're supposed to do, and then they don't ask another question. And so they assume they know everything that they're supposed to be doing without the follow-up questions. And that's the part where it can get you into trouble. And I've done that. Like I've done that before where it's like, I'm so excited and I just take off running. And then I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I don't think I understood that fully yet. But that's the beautiful thing. Those are just the learning experiences that you get to have, and you get to choose if you're going to learn from it or not, and how you're going to choose to react from, from the situation as well.
And sometimes I've noticed the inner guidance will guide you towards a struggle on purpose, because
Yep.
everyone, they don't, it doesn't always take you to, the easiest path of life, because there is this misunderstanding that if you listen to your intuition, everything is always going to be easy. But sometimes you have to gain a muscle in life to have the best version of your life. And your intuition will guide you towards that pattern or something that you need to work through that might not be so comfortable. But it will tell you to go there just so you can overcome that, because that's your path. Because until you overcome that, you can't get to where you need to go. So I always give people a disclaimer. I say, just because you're listening to your intuitive self doesn't mean you're always getting good news, or you're not always being guided to the best, life that's easy. Because they're just misunderstanding that life's supposed to be just chill. And
Yeah.
I say, if you wanted to just chill, why the heck did you come to this world of emotion and challenges? And we're here to transform. Ultimately, if we're humans,
Absolutely.
souls here to transform, and you can't just transform chilling. You have to go through stuff where you gain spiritual, mental, physical muscles.
Yeah. What's your I know you love coaching people on manifesting. What's your manifesting process?
It recently changed, but so I went through multiple ones. First, it was very deliberate visualizing, writing, doing the photos, what is it, the vision board, and really just doing it, going all out and giving it a timeline. And then I was getting stuff, but I was getting stuff that was, and this is before I even knew what manifestation was. I was getting stuff. I was really commanding the universe to give me what I wanted, not
Mm-hmm.
really putting into consideration whether that was good for me or not.
Right.
So I was bending the universe's will almost, because I was strong. We're strong creators. And then I came to the conclusion that, oh, if you see multiple obstacles, don't try to overcome them. If it's like really that you see like everything is a block, like you're trying to do something, because I would try to do something and there would be a ton of blocks and I would bend it all. It was like bending iron. And then so I went to just trusting, knowing that the universe knows what I want, and I'm just living in the flow of things. And that's where I was until Octoberish when my book was coming out, and I was just trusting that everything's going to go the way it's supposed to, and it did. But then I discovered Neville Goddard, and he's from the 40s, and he took the Bible basically and took the passages and translated into manifestational terms and teaching about manifestation. And his is just about getting into that state, which we know about, like the of getting into the state of already having whatever it is, and really just looking at the evidence that you get when you have it, but doing it
Yeah.
only when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed, when you're in theta states, and doing it so much that during the day, whenever you do or say or see something that doesn't match those moments that you had in the morning and at night, you recognize it and you walk yourself back into that frequency. So that's where I am now. And honestly, here's the thing. When it comes to manifestation, if you're a good person, if you're happy, if you're regulated, emotionally regulated, you always get what you need. You don't even have to worry about it. What you need is always there. But
Right.
it's fun to play with stuff that you want. And that's what active manifestation versus passive manifestation is.
Right.
If you really just want more than what you just need, then it's fun to have some fun with active manifestation. And that's what I was talking about.
With the active manifestation too, I feel like it puts you in the driver's seat of responsibility of minding your mind, meaning you're observing your thoughts in an active way to see if they're a vibrational match for the desires in which you have.
And you're also clarifying bigger desires and
Yep,
being more of a visionary. I think there's benefit to all of it because passive manifestation, you still need to be in alignment.
yep,
So you have to be in alignment. Let's say that money's not coming in or things aren't working out, but you're in this chill mode because you have to stay in alignment, that everything's going to work out. You're still being pretty mindful of your frequency, but at the same time, you're not really trying to force things to happen or making it happen the way that you want it. So I like it all. I think there's a time where we have the will for one, or we have the desire, and then and it's important also to understand your subconscious programming, because like my course, for example, it's called Subconscious Manifestation, because I believe it's a three-parter. It used to be a two-parter. One part is managing the automated subconscious that is running your life and knowing if there are faulty programs that are preventing you from having something. Another one is managing the universal laws that are on autopilot, and
Mhm.
then really knowing how they work, so you're not sabotaging yourself there. And the third part, which is really important, is being in touch with your intuition to know when to act,
Mhm.
because the act part is really important in manifestation as well. And it requires being in tune with your intuition to know when to take the action step. And so that I think is really, really important as well.
I think that's great. There's so much. Like, I think that manifestation is a misused or misunderstood word sometimes because, we have these words that become pop culture. And but what does that actually mean? And then I think words are interesting in general, and they have a vibrational meaning to all of us in different ways. Because I can hear a word and it doesn't trigger me, but you could hear a word and it triggers you, and it's like it also depends on when you grew up and what was acceptable then and what's not acceptable now. And it's like it's such a fascinating thing, but it does matter in terms of manifestation in the way that we're doing things and the way that we're interacting with things as well. And I love that you teach that. Talk a little bit more about the subconscious in general.
Well, the subconscious is the gateway to everything. First of all, it's the smartest version of you, other than the ethereal aspects of you. It's running your body as we speak. It can function. It's very efficient, and it does things as fast as possible. So it doesn't take the long road to anything, and it runs. It's basically the part of you that's running your entire system at all at once. But it's also the gateway to inner worlds, and it's the gateway to your higher self. It's basically, and then its language is very unique to you based on your subconscious programming. So, for example, if you're trying to communicate with your subconscious and you've had a very negative association with roses, because every time you've touched one, the thorn, or actually, did you know it's not a thorn? It's a prick or something like that. I forget what it's
Yeah.
called. But the thorn, we're going to call it that. It hurt you every single time, or prickle. It's a prickle. Sorry. Roses have prickles, not thorns. I just learned that. So every time you touched it, you ended up getting hurt. And somebody else, got roses every time somebody loved them. When your subconscious speaks to you, tries to warn you or give you some positive information, it might show someone a rose and it might show someone something completely different. So it's really important to get acquainted with the language of your particular subconscious. And even when it comes to dreams or visions, what you see is very specific to your subconscious language. So I think that's really important. For example, it was the first time you came over to my house,
Hmm.
and 2 hours before, I had my first true vision, and I saw this bird fall from the sky and die, and my grandmother died like right then, as you
Yeah, that
were.
was
Yeah,
crazy.
I was like, "Hey, I'm leaving the key under the mat because my grandmother died, so you have to come to my house without me ever being there." And that was my first vision, and I saw a bird die, and it was struggling, it was bleeding, but that was my subconscious way of showing me that my grandmother died. So somebody else
Yeah.
might have a complete different vision, and it was my first time really having a vision, because I don't consider myself a clairvoyant at all. Well, second time. I don't really consider myself a clairvoyant, but it's really good to understand the language of your subconscious and know that it has the answers, because it's been storing information and has a broader perspective. So I do this not meditation. I do this hypnotherapy session called your inner self and higher self activation. Is my favorite thing that I do, And people come to me with 4 questions, for example, that they want answers to, and I will take them as deep as they allow me to go through hypnosis to tap into their subconscious, which is linked to all the different aspects of them, the higher
Yes.
self, superconscious, their ancestors. And then once I bring them online, I will ask them their own questions, and they will answer their own questions from a greater perspective. And everybody has an answer if they let you go deep enough. And everybody almost has the same answer. Ironically, it's so weird how everyone has the same answer to their questions. And then I take them to the future and show them what life would be if they followed their own advice. And we extract the energy and vibration of that. And then we kind of anchor it using NLP techniques in the body so they have it. But it's amazing what the subconscious has access to. And like I said, it's crazy how everyone has the same answer. Like almost because when you tap into your higher self, it's like the message is always the same.
I think one of the things that I love about doing the work that we do is like I love testing things. And when I tested, I got like this massive download for this very particular activation. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to test this. And like, I just threw out an offer to test it on 10 people. And all 10 people had the exact same experience when it came to a certain part in the activation and how we were doing it and everything like that. And I'm just like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, this is the coolest part because you're not feeding them the information. They are sharing because their conscious mind is cloaked and their subconscious is speaking for them. It's such a cool thing to see and to witness. And it's just like, I'm like it's so powerful. So, so powerful.
I know, I love that. I tested my hypno session on people too, because I, I had to come up with something that I wanted to do that I really loved. And I was like, this would be cool. I took elements from different hypno sessions like Dolores Cannon's or other people. I just put it all together into one piece and tested it, and it was really amazing. There were only a few people who had no response, and they were very, very logical people, and
Yeah.
both of them got super dizzy because their subconscious and conscious were fighting each other, and both of them were
Yeah,
like,
because they didn't surrender to it.
yeah, they were like, I feel queasy, I feel dizzy. I said, all right, let's come out, and I will continue the rest of the session as with your conscious mind. So it was fascinating. I love experimenting on people's brains. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say that because it just sounded funny, but it is experiment. I get to pick in people's minds. And just to clarify, hypnotherapy is not something people do to you.
Right.
Hypnotherapy is something that we give suggestions as a hypnotherapist, and you allow yourself, and the stronger willed you are and the more powerful you are, the more you're able to go deeper. And it's something you do to yourself, and you can snap out of it at any second. There's nothing, and that stage hypnotherapy thing that people see on in movies and stuff. That's all for show. It's not real. It's not what it is.
Yeah, it's magic
Yeah,
with the C. Magic with the
yeah.
C. Um, tell everybody how they can work with you and how they can find your book.
Okay, so my book's everywhere. So you can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, wherever you go. And if you go to a bookstore and they don't have it, you just ask for it and they'll order it for you. And it comes in audio as well as the Kindle version. You can go to my link tree, which is Happy Insights, or go to my website, which is happyinsights.net, or go to my podcast, which is Happy Insights Podcast, or go to my Instagram, which is Happy Insights Official. But it's all Happy Insights. If you put in the name Happy Ali, which is my full name, you will see in Google like everything pop up. There's so much stuff that pops up. But I do have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube for my podcasts, and it's Apple everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I'll
So
I'll link everything in the show notes and in the show description. So if anybody's interested in checking out Happy's work, his book, I listened to your book on Audible and you did a really good job. I think it's a really well written book and I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited
thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me coming from someone who does what I do, because your peers' opinions are sometimes feel a lot more important because, they will catch you if there's anything phony or if you're full of shit.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I just love it and I love you. So get his book, guys. Check out his work. It's absolutely amazing. He has a podcast too, and it's lots of fun. So thank you. Happy. Anything else you want to share before we hop off?
no, just remember that you have so much inner wisdom that's dying to get out, that's waiting to get out, and also remember that your intuition can never be louder than your five senses, because your five senses are here to make sure that you survive and you're not falling into a ditch. So if you're wanting your inner voice to be really loud and catch your attention, it really doesn't. It doesn't often do that. It's always the loudest it gets is a whisper compared to our physical five senses. But know that you're always supported. And if you ever have a question about that, come do my hypnotherapy session. I do it on Zoom, so that'll give you a whole new perspective on everything. But thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. And if you've never done hypnotherapy before, I think it's so powerful. Like it's one of the things that completely changed. I have many things that changed my life, but that is one of the tools that have had changed my life when I was starting my spiritual journey. And then even after I did my yoga teacher training, like I went and did like a 5 session series of hypnotherapy sessions to like work through some stuff that I was having a really hard time working through. And so hypnotherapy is so powerful.
I agree.
Awesome,
Thank you so much
friends.
for having me.
Please make sure you like and subscribe, share this with a friend, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.